Live.
All right.
Okay.
I don't see it on your channel yet. I was going to share the link once it popped up.
Okay. Yeah. See if it pops up. If it works. And I will actually grab a little snack because
All right, there it goes.
it's working.
Hey guys, we can share the link. All right. So we're live on Toronto FPV's channel. He's grabbing a snack. He'll be right back.
I can still hear you. Just running around, so I'll be rudely shoving food through my mouth when when you start telling a story.
All right.
So basically, I just thought it'd be fun to like hang out with people in the FPV community that are basically building drones or doing drone stuff. And I noticed like you as one of the guys from the beginning that I've always enjoyed kind of how you do this, little movie montage and like when you hold this piece of equipment, it's a nice thing. Like you put on that kind of tone. The last video I watched with you was actually with the Steam
Oh yeah,
gaming
yeah,
thing.
the Steam Deck. Yeah.
Where you're like laying in bed and like looking at the camera. Like, I started playing video games again. It's just like it's pretty good. Yeah. So I guess I usually like to just ask people questions, and then if you have questions, you ask them, and we chit chat about stuff.
All right.
So first of all, short circuit one or two.
I would probably say the original is definitely the one I rented from the video store more as a kid, but they're both good.
The
I definitely
original.
watched that one more times, probably.
Okay, John is saying
Although,
that we have Discord noises. So
oh,
let's
okay.
just see. Maybe shut down the Discord. Is it? I
I
don't know
don't
if
think
they're
I have
coming.
Discord open on my side.
Okay, I don't even know if I have Discord open either. Let me just. How do I even change this? I hear that noise too, but I don't know what it's coming from.
I
What?
don't hear it on my side.
Okay. Sorry, John.
No,
Maybe
it
it's your
must be
fault. I heard
probably
it
so.
again. It's like some sort of like the don't. I don't
Oh, weird.
I
I
don't
don't
even
think I
think I
have
have
Discord
Discord even
open.
on though.
Yeah, I definitely don't.
I th- I feel like it might be. You know what it might be? It might be one of my USBs because ever since I started doing FPV stuff, all my USBs are just a word I can't say.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know. Discord. Okay,
all
yes.
right. I shared the post.
So, see, for you it was number one. For me, it was number two. When he has the mohawk and it's like
Yeah, that
holding
one
up
is
for a
definitely
hero.
good.
But
These
what?
locals kick your balls into outer space. I mean, that was classic.
Yes, that was Spanish. We understood what it meant. Oh man, it was just and the battery leaking and like all that stuff. So what's your favorite movie?
Oh man, that's hard to say. At a certain point, I probably made like a top 10 or 20 list,
Okay, give me
and that
three.
was probably a while back. But out of those, I would probably say like Inception, Predator, Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, probably Blade Runner, um, stuff like that. A lot of the old sci-fi's, Casino would probably be
Casino's so
definitely in
good.
there. Goodfellas, yeah.
Okay, see now I know the type of person that you are.
Like Shawshank, anything with good dialogue or good directing. Or I used to before I got into FPV, my hobby was sort of like photography, and then I started doing a lot of writing, and then I was taking a lot of film classes, and I was TAing like a video production class for a while. and made a few short films. And then like a few years later, I found drones, and making a channel was sort of a way to like combine all of those hobbies with like a new thing. And I had all the video equipment just sitting around anyway, so that's how it kind of got started.
Well, it shows. It shows in your videos. Like also the documentary you did, like the little documentary about Min Chen. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it was so good. Like how you talked about how like when he's in Korea, they're like nasty to him or whatever.
Yeah,
That's so unfair. Because it's
that was wild when I found that out. I actually found it out after the race, and I was like, no way. And then when I was going back through the footage, I was like, oh man, like no wonder he got so emotional about that moment. So
yeah, him and that other guy are wild.
yeah.
The two Mins. Is he a Min too? Just
there
am I saying something wrong? There's two Korean guys that are like
there's
wrecking
another
everything.
guy who's very fast called Min J Kim.
Yes, yes.
And at International Open 2 years ago, I was there, and this like big black SUV rolls up, and like this little kid gets out, and like five or six people like all around him. And it was like they brought this other kid from Korea to try to. I mean, this was a story that was in my mind. Like they brought him to try to defeat Min Chen, and like when the timing system was going, and it would call out their names, they sounded so similar because it's like a robotic voice that was like Min Chan Kim or Min Jae Kim. You could barely hear the difference, and he was really really fast. Also, but of course, like Min Chan won. But like 3 days ago, I saw a post. There was some big international race where they had two-person teams, and the two Min Chan and Min Jae were on a single team, and they won. So they teamed up for at least one race.
Yeah, that was sick. I saw this the first time I saw him in a video where he was like indoors with a 3 inch with a tiny
Mm.
trainer, and I was just like, holy cow. Because like with you, you're doing like you're mostly racing with FPV, right?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah. See, like I know I don't have the time. Like I don't have the time to be a racer because it's just you have to just do it so much because if you don't, there's everyone else that does. You know, it's not like years ago where like anyone could kind of get in, right?
I mean, it's kind of true, but there's also something to be said for some people that just go to like one or two races a year, and like that's still cool. Like Bardwell does the qualifier pretty much every year, and that's about all the racing he does. But like you get that little itch, you do a few moves, you compare yourself, and then you go back to like your freestyle or whatever.
Oh, I
Like that's
love
kind
it.
of a cool way to do it. And like definitely don't worry about being competitive because like I've probably been racing for like 6 or 7 years, and I'm still nowhere close to anybody at the top at all.
Wow.
And
So here, like wintertime comes, and then it's just like so.
mm,
Then whoop season comes.
yep.
So, but the races are like 2 3 like 1 to 3 hours away usually. So it's just and then they're on
Yeah.
Saturday, and on Saturday I have a hair salon, so it's just like
Mm.
it's like I want to be racing whoops, and instead I'm curling hair. Like you have no idea how much that hurts my soul.
Yeah, well, I actually just started building a tiny whoop. They have this thing called like Race Gow or something where you
Mm-hmm.
can build a track and fly it in your house. And so I'm working on that. I started printing these little like gate connectors so I could start to build my own little track. So
I
looking
printed the
forward to
whole
that.
thing.
Oh, nice.
I didn't have the pipes. I'm just like I got so much filament. So look at this.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm barely starting to build the track like today because I got this new racing tiny whoop from 533.
They're really
Oh
terrible
man. Hey, that's cool though.
because you can't print a whole thing. So like I printed like a tube and then like a connector, and then
Oh yeah.
I glued them together and
Hey, that works.
yeah, it's the ultimate like cheapness.
Heck yeah.
Frugal, is
Yeah,
that
I
the
just
word?
went and got my pipe from Home Depot this weekend, and it's like it's kind of a trip to like sit there and just make like all these cuts in the middle of the store, and people are like trying to get by you, and it took way longer than I had
Yeah,
pictured in my mind. Yeah,
I've done that before. I've done that with the big pipes because I'll make like hides for my snakes and geckos and stuff.
oh, nice.
So I'm in
Yeah,
Home
yeah.
Depot and I thought it was going to be quick. And I'm cutting a pipe that's like this big,
Oh,
sweating.
jeez.
My winter stuff all to the side.
Yeah, for sure. That it's a trip.
Yeah, so I know
Um,
that feeling. Oh man. So when did you start FPV and how did you get into it?
I started seeing probably like drones flying around in maybe 2015, and that's when I started like trying to shop for my first drone. And at that point, I don't think I had figured out FPV existed. I just saw a DJI like Phantom, and I was like, "Oh my god, I want that!" But at the time, they were like, I don't know, $400 or $500, which back then it was like that's a lot of freaking money for a toy. So I was desperately, or I was like so afraid I was gonna destroy it. And like on the first time I flew it, so I bought like this cheap like SEMA X5C like $50 thing, and I was like, I'll teach myself how to fly with this, and then get the Phantom. And that thing was actually funner than the dang Phantom. Like eventually, I got the Phantom, flew it for like 3 or 4 weeks, and after I had really cool pictures of like my whole neighborhood, I was like, all right, what am I supposed to do with this thing now? Like,
Where are the
it
ladies
started
at?
yeah, it started getting kind of boring, and I was like, and then I found FPV, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And so started like flying little Ishin brushed micros and stuff like that, and it just kind of spiraled from there. And then probably 2016 or so, I found some people racing near me, like just by mistake. They just happened to like go to the same field that I was at, and I saw them going through just like noodle gates, and I was like, "Oh man, could I try it?" And I was hooked. But up until then, like it was a solo hobby. Like I had no interest in like interacting with anyone else doing it.
Are you an
Um,
introvert?
I yeah, probably so. Like I'm not the most social. Like I have like a pretty like I've had the same group of friends since almost first grade, and so like we all hang out with each other, and we're kind of loud, but I don't always like just go up and meet random people. So like most of my hobbies are just like things I can go do by myself. And I'm glad I found those racers though, because like probably I've hung out with like the Houston Night Spot crew, like Lamone and Grower and
Limon,
Sam
is that
and
how
like
it's said?
and Joe
Limon?
Mama.
Not
I
lemon?
think so.
Lyman? Lemon?
I think it's I to me I always pronounced it more like how you do in Spanish, just because I thought that's
Limon.
like what it was. And then Joe Scully at the big races, the announcer guy would always be saying Lehman, and I was like, "Is that right? I don't think it's right." I'm gonna have to ask him one day and clarify, but I think it's Lamone.
Mm. What's the naughtiest thing you've ever done with a drone?
uh, I don't really get too crazy with any of my drones. Like to me, like the racing is like the funnest, but I have had to like rescue a drone from on top of a building or something before. But that's not too bad. Like I was able to get it down. Sometimes like schools are fun to go fly because there's nobody there on the weekends. You're not going to bother anybody. But then it's like, oh my gosh, I have to get this down before the weekend's over, or like before summer's over, or else I'm gonna have to explain like why am I trying to like climb on top of the school or something. But nothing too bad has ever happened, thankfully. Not that I could think of. Yeah, anything crazy happened to you before?
Well, like My daughter's school is nearby, and the playground is like a fun place to kind of practice. But I don't do it like during school hours, of course, but sometimes
Right.
after school hours, and I only do sub 250, so I'm only on the little guys. So
Mm,
that's my excuse for being a little wild. But I also have snakes. I have like 8 foot snakes, and I'll take them to the park and let them like chill. And all the kids will come and they'll pet the snakes, and they'll be like, "Oh man, it's the snake guy." And then another time, I'm ripping my little drone around, and then I hear the kids are like, "Hey, there's a guy with the drone." They're like, "Hey, the drone guy is the snake guy." They're the same
yeah.
person. Like, but no one. First of all, like, I never try to. I never want to scare anyone. I like sharing the wonder, and that's kind of like what I think of it. Like, if I saw a drone kind of fly by me and it wasn't like trying to attack me or something, I'd be like, "Oh, that's cool." And like 98% of the time, anyone that like sees the drone is just kind of like, "Wow," or they smile and they wave, and it's just like it's a really fun thing. And then they come and I give them my business card that has like 4 YouTube channels on it. It's like if you ever need
Nice.
a haircut, a pet snake, or want to learn how to fly these drones,
Right on.
right? Like someone asked me in the community thing, like to make a video about how to be like inconspicuous or whatever. So
Hmm.
then I did one today. It was just like I just sit in the middle of nowhere, and I'm not like you just. I've always looked at it like okay, I got a solid 4 minutes to like do something fun, and then put it in my bag and walk away, right? And
Yeah.
anytime that security has come, it's always just been, you can't do that. Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Right, right. And like I forget about that too cuz when we're trying to set up a racing track, we want to go so far away from anybody because it's so much work to set it all up. If we get kicked out, it's like, "Oh man, that's like half of our day." Um so we hardly end up like interacting with anyone usually. And sometimes people will hear us if they're like walking off the beaten path or something and come check it out, but it's mostly good. I can say like at our night spot though, sometimes people will just be wandering through a random parking lot at like 1 in the morning and they'll just walk onto the track. And so we always have to have people like watching when other people are flying so that because who knows who what would possess you to be walking around random parts of like a dark city in the middle of the night, but they're usually not paying attention despite like a giant loud drone like flying around. So we have had a few times where it's like everybody stop, land your drone, somebody just walked into the damn track and is not paying attention. Or a lot of times people will drive in to what they think is a empty parking lot at 1 in the morning and they see a bunch of nerds in the corner like flying these drones and they immediately like get the heck out of there. They're like, what the hell is going on?
What- Do you do drone work also? Like, do you do work with drones?
No, no, no. It's just always been just a hobby for me. So like just a way to relax. And I've been asked a few times over the years, but it's like anytime like I have kind of a limited amount of time to spend on FPV total. And it's like if I give up 5 hours this month to like go do something, then that's 5 hours I can't do what I want. And so like I don't, but like I could see it being totally fun. And I think also like being on short film sets kind of ruined the excitement of that because it's like I don't know if you've been on a set,
Oh yeah,
but it's like a lot of just kind of like waiting around.
yeah.
So,
Oh, so here's a good one. You know it, the new it.
yeah, yeah.
So they made a show. They're making. I don't know if it's out yet. They probably already shot it. So they made a show. It's called Welcome to Derry, and it's the
Oh,
prequel.
nice.
It's the prequel for it. And I'm in the show with. Well, I'm not in it. My snake is in it.
I mean, that's close enough,
So
really.
no, it's perfect because to be in these shows, lots of the time, you like as a person, you have to be with with the agency. So
Right, right,
I
right,
get
right.
to skip all the agency stuff because I don't have to register my snake through an agency, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I do. When is that show coming out? I
I
read all those books years ago. Like I can't wait for that.
I have no idea. I just know basically I filmed a pile of stuff and I just you have to wait till it comes out before you can share anything.
Oh,
But
right, right.
but Sophie, she's like one of my favorite snakes. She's like a 7-8 foot albino boa, and she's on set. But anytime I go places, I usually bring my FPV stuff, right? So I'm just like,
Ah,
there's this field, there's like the carnival and everything, and I'm just like, I'm gonna just rip through this set, and it's gonna be sick. And the moment like I got it up in the air, their drone guy came and was like, "No, no, we can't be doing that." I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. So I didn't get like usually I'll have enough time to get like one flyby or something.
oh man.
But yeah, so that didn't happen. But then there was another time where also with snakes, I rent snakes to belly dancers. So the belly dancer dances with the snake, and then I'm there making sure it's okay. And we did it in this like huge restaurant that had more lights than a club. And the owner was there, and I had my like '03 Mob 8. It's like 59 grams because I made a naked one. I'm like, can I go through your thing? And he's like, go for it. And I was like, yes.
Nice.
Yeah. But so then what do you do for work? Do you have family? Do you have kids?
Yeah. All my kids are kind of grown out the house, so that's I started spending a bit more time on the channel and racing like in the last few years. Like once I was get that little extra time back,
How old is
and
Johnny? 5.
well, like a lot of us Latin folks, we start kind of early, so then you get to finish early and enjoy everything while you're still young, and
You heard it. Johnny likes to finish early.
so that's yeah, that's the benefit. Like I do have a lot of friends now that they have like smaller kids, and it's like, hey man, like you want to go to happy hour? Like, oh no, I gotta go pick the kids up after school. Like, oh, sucks for you, man. So, I remember that back in the day, though.
I take my kid almost everywhere. It's fun. She's my
Yeah,
spotter.
that's a nice thing about FPV. It's pretty kid friendly. There's always a few kids hanging out at the races, or if you go to a freestyle meetup, and for sure. And some of them end up being like really awesome pilots at beating all of
Look
us.
at Pepper. Have you raced with Pepper?
I haven't raced with Pepper, but I have raced with a few people that I met when they were like small kids, and then they're just like really good now. It is a little bit crazy when somebody comes and just beats everybody, and they're not even old enough to get like a driver's license, and it's like, ah, come on, man.
Oh, that's okay. That's another thing that I find so interesting in our hobby. Because coming from the reptile community, which is like to me like the most toxic place in the world.
Really?
Oh man, because it's just imagine someone comes and tells you how to raise your kids or like says bad things about your kids.
Mm,
You can get very touchy about that, And then same thing with
right,
the
right.
reptiles. So you get these people that are just like, you should only keep your animals in these environments that are like the wild, and like you should do things
Mm,
like this. You should give them UVB. You should give them all these like lights, or you should supplement them, or you should do all these things. And like there'll be people that are like crazy on both sides, or oh, you're giving your snake too much space, or you're giving your snake too little space. And people are so sensitive about that stuff. So then coming into the FPV community, I just find it hilarious when there is drama, because it's like lots of the time over such like little childish things that like it never affects me emotionally. It's just like
right.
we're like 30, 40-year-old men like, did you know 6S is better? These motors and like mice in a whoop. Like no, Gepard C makes the best one. You know what I mean? Like have you seen have you
Oh
seen
yeah, we always enjoy the FPV drama, And like when Lamone started doing his live streams where we like do the spill the tea show, and it's like the same conversations we would just be having, like just us sitting around at the night spot. And I was like, well, this might be entertaining. So like we should just like bring people on and just talk about the same stuff we do sitting out there, just talk about drama and yeah, it's all in good fun. Nobody really gets their feelings too hurt, you know. And no, I totally get what you're saying. Like, you're not gonna go home super bummed about something, some people talking trash about your favorite motor or something.
And to me, that's what makes FPV so beautiful. Like, as someone that loved like those video games where like you build your armor, you build your sword, you build like these things, and you get to the next level. To me, like FPV is like that. You build your like cine skills, you build your racing skills, you build your FPV skills, and you there's drones that are really like nimble and can turn on a dial, but you can't throw them. And then there's drones that are heavier and that just think of the tank, like taking turns, you know? Like for you, like have you tr- have you experimented like with all the different styles and like what have you found with like playing around with that? Like what is your space?
I've definitely tried like all different sizes of quads. Like I probably started flying the tiny little brushed things because I wanted something I could fly in my house. That was before I realized like how difficult it is to fly something in your house. And then I sort of graduated to bigger and bigger, and street league. They had a big street league race in town this past weekend. I didn't actually race in it, but I went to go hang out. And those are like the big 7 inch giant racing machines, and they all have like their own fun things. I built like always the biggest motors you can think of on a freestyle, just trying to make it feel like a toothpick or something, and just always trying to get like a certain feeling of the combination of power to weight ratio and things like that. And they're all fun. And for a while, I was a big time weight watcher with all my builds, trying to get the lightest, you know, like when the floss very first came out, it was like who could shave the most grams and go the fastest. And then all you realize is like it's just about how you're going to break all of your stuff the fastest if your drone is super light because everything's just going to snap. And so I sort of settled on a much heavier setup.
Are you
But
flying
yeah, I
the
mean,
open racer mostly?
yeah, pretty much all the open racer. Like that was designed by Lamone in
Yeah.
Houston because, but probably mostly because of our night spot. And it's like if you fly anything else, you're just gonna end up paying more. And I started to realize it didn't matter if I had a drone as light as Evan or Minchan. I wasn't gonna be within 10 seconds of them on a track anyway. So it's like I might as well go with something that I have to fix less, then I can fly more. And every time you got to fix your drone, like while you're racing or flying or even practicing, it's like less time to fly. So I was like, just go for the most durable thing, get the most stick time, and like that'll help me the most.
Yeah.
So pretty much everybody in town is doing that. But last year though, I did build a Chronos when they came out with that super light frame,
Yeah, I know it. Like
and I could tell the difference. I was like, oh man, I could tell I'm faster. Like I know if I race this full time, it's gonna be very expensive, but I could tell. And I didn't want to tell. I was like, don't tell me it feels better.
well, like of
Um,
course, because like I obsess over like the designs. Like I watch everything, and it just with the Chronos, the moment I saw it, I'm like no motor protection, right? Because it's like it's just make it strong and light so that you could just like rip. And I'm just curious if they made that. Like I just wonder if they made like the same thing, like just 4 inch with a single plate, or if they just did it as a single plate, the same thing, like how it would do.
mhm,
Because
mhm.
the pure performance of the frame, that's basically what it is. It's like so light, so fast, but your motors are exposed and you have to fly like Minchat.
Yeah, for sure. And well, and then I remember in that short film that I made in Costa Rica, I asked Minchan like, how many quads did you bring with you? And of course, he was like, this is a long trip for me because he came to the US, he stayed with Evan for a few weeks, he came to Costa Rica, and he was going to other races. So it was like a 2-month trip, but he brought 17 quads. And so like if he obliterates one, it's like no thing. He'll just like go to the next one. Whereas for me, like when I was trying to get faster, every time I would start to push it, like I could see dollar signs like in the back of my mind. Like if I go a little too fast and crash here, this is gonna cost me $200.
And that messes you up. I swear to you,
Oh,
there is
it
something
does.
about that that messes you up because the moment I put an O3 on a quad, I swear to you, like I started analog, then I went to Vistas, and I broke like 7 Vistas in one summer.
Oh, dang.
And then and then I flew a Crux 35 that I had that I just kind of ignored. I changed it, and I had such a good time flying it. Like cuz it was like if you go in my videos and watch like the first upload, you can see the first time I flew analog. I'm just so excited about FPV. You know when your channel is like one channel off?
Oh, right, right. It
You
was
know when
just
you're
like
like
all
flying
fuzzy.
like one
Yeah.
channel off and you're like I can't see anything. Like, that was my first FPV experience. Like I'm just like trying to fly around. I didn't know about camera angles. It's at like probably like 20 degrees and it's my first time flying and I like it was just so terrible and I'm like this is amazing. But going from analog to digital and then not flying analog for so long and then having that first analog experience again, I was like, holy cow, I feel like Superman. So it was like I went through such a weird like thing because people get so caught up with that too, with like digital and it's the best. And now I love the O3. Like my favorite thing to fly is the O3. And even though the latency is like supposed to be more than the Vista, it's just so stable. It doesn't get
Right.
blocky and stuff. So it's just it inspires confidence in that way. But flying analog is like I love flying analog too, and that's what made me kind of like go back into everything. So it's like one week I fly analog, the next HD zero, the next O3. But I'm just the first O3 I got the like second flight I scratched the lens.
Mm.
And then I watched Rotor Riot's video on how to fix a scratched lens, and I just made it worse.
Oh, dang.
But yeah, you give me that stuff, and I destroy it so quickly. But then premium analog, you can put like a nice like Rush, the 1.6 solo, whatever, and like just good analog parts, and it just lasts forever. And I feel like it's like when you're flying stuff that you don't feel that way. Like I'm like, oh, I better not break this. It's like it just there's something that it's like that Timex Indigo watch that like my dad said, I'll get you a new watch when yours breaks, and like it just never broke. And then you get
Right.
like a new Michael Kors watch and it scratches the first wall you pass by. Like, don't you find that?
Yeah, I mean, if you can separate yourself from being worried if it's gonna break, then you can for sure fly better, differently. And I feel like some people are always speculating like why are young racers better? Do they actually have better reaction time? Do they just have more free time to practice? And one of the things I always suppose is
No
like
fear.
there's no connection between the cost because they're not buying it. And for a lot of them, if they have a race dad, there's no connection in the time it's going to take them to fix it because they're not fixing. And that separation is like, I can send it as hard as I want every time. Whereas, like, I'm going to pull back because I know this is going to cost me $200 and it's going to cost me 3 hours of time on the bench at some point. And if they don't feel that, it's like they're only experiencing like the rush of flying. And I could definitely see that.
Okay, so unlimited money, your dream build, everything, all the
Um,
parts.
that's what's kind of nice about FPV. Like it's, I don't want to say it's like dirt cheap, but it's probably the cheapest hobby I've ever had. And anybody can have like whatever dream build, like for the most part, right? Like the difference between like a budget build and a dream build is maybe like $200 or something. So like if you get a budget build, like back in the day, you could build a cheap ass drone for almost $100. Now the cheapest you can do is maybe 250, and like if you go everything, maybe you're spending 500-600. It's not that different, right? So like for like a freestyle, I think the last video I made was like the Vanny Style Pro, and like that's probably what I would. I'm gonna keep that one around for a while in case I ever need to do like some nice freestyle, but just
With the
a
toilet
deep
tank.
stack O3, yeah, toilet tank. Like I didn't think I was gonna feel that difference, but it I feel like I kind of can, and it just felt like really smooth. And whenever Lamone designed an O3 version of the Open Racer, I was like, okay, I don't ever want to fly a freestyle quad again because, and it's probably just because that's what I'm used to. I'm used to having the weight on the bottom. I'm
Hmm.
used to having like very nimble control. So then having HD recording on something that flew like a racer, I was like, I can put this exactly where I want whenever I want. And that Vanny Style Pro was the closest thing I ever felt like that felt like I had that much control over it. And but even that build is like maybe what 550, $600, like including the O3, which isn't too bad. Like
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends that are into cars, and like my whole FPV hobby probably costs more than like the rims on their car, like not even accounting for the tires.
Yeah. The way that that affects the flight is quite interesting because when you toilet tank the battery and put it on top, well, on mine I have the motors inverted
Mm-hmm.
because I was thinking I like a True X, and it drives me nuts how I'm like they're like flying coffins. Like I like to build as tight as possible, so it takes longer. Everything's naked and whatever, but all the space savings, right? Because if it's super tight, you got the tight center of gravity, and then with the motors underneath it and a stack underneath it, and then the battery toilet tanked with the camera on top right in front of the battery. The center of gravity makes such a big difference that I didn't think that pusher would fly as good as like a regular, but because of that center of gravity, there's the weight on top, there's the weight underneath, and they're actually balancing each other. And when you hit something
Mm.
and you're moving, it's like it actually corrects itself easier and quicker too because of the way that weight is like distributed. So when I saw the pirate frames, the PEDV or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then he also did it. Vanny was flying the toilet tank top. It, it's just interesting how things change and how that the center of gravity, like you said, like you when you're holding the battery underneath, you're always kind of slinging it.
Right.
You're slinging the weight, and the weight kind of like it like pulls you. But then when you have the weight on top, you're always kind of catching it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's kind of toilet tanked, it kind of just changes the weight a little bit more. And when the stack is tighter, it feels if you feel the difference compared to just flying with the normal one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I remember I remember like trying all different combinations of like where to put the battery, where to put the props, and just experimenting with all that stuff till you get that exact feel. And it's kind of cool that we have like some of those professionals out there, like Vanover or was that guy Finky or other people just designing stuff that are actually on set and like doing all this work and like flying big productions, and they're like incorporating those things that they learn like back into 5 inch, and so then you can go and fly it and see if you feel the difference. And like a lot of times you can, like there's a lot of cool experimentation that, like you said, like you made something that is just to like your specifications and see if it makes a difference. And sometimes you find something that's like, whoa, this really is nice. That's pretty cool.
Like Umagod did a lot of that too.
Yeah, yeah. He was like the first one that really like started like making stuff. And I can't remember if he was making stuff or getting on set first, but it all started like happening at the same time. And it was just, I really like a lot of his designs too. Like I had that 250, like I really, really liked that 250 for a while.
Hmm.
And some of his other things too. Like what was the one before it that you could put like two cameras on
There's the
at the
remix,
front?
the
It was
God,
like a little 3 inch.
yeah. Oh, it was
I forgot what the
something
name of it
God,
was,
wasn't
but
it? Like it was like the trash
yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah.
Wasn't the
But
trash
those were
God?
all like those were all so fun, and it's still amazing to me like that you can just order some electronics, solder them together, and go out and just fly something. I mean, it feels just that first moment when you maiden hover, the first thing that you built, is just like an undescribable feeling. It feels like you just discovered fire or something. Like I created this and it's
Yes,
flying. Like
Castaway. See, you think in movies. I see that like when you have that moment and you put it in, and then there's so many times where I do that too. I'm just like, do I really want to go find that scene, clip it, and I'm like, oh. So I'm like, I know you do that, you know?
yeah. It is basically like the way I talk and think.
Yeah, but it's just there's
Funny.
so many references, and the moment that they show up, it's like it's in there, you know? I love
Yeah,
that's
that's what keeps me entertained for like doing it because I went through definitely different cycles and making videos where it's like at first I was like, oh man, I'm trying every little new bind and fly that comes out anyway. So like if I just talk about it, it might be more entertaining than some of these random channels. And then after a while, it's like, golly, but a lot of times when I'm buying something or shopping for something, I'm like, oh, it reminds me of this. Well, why don't I just say that in the video or show it? And then,
because when you're making
but yeah,
videos, everything gets weird, you know? Like it does sometimes. Like you plan it, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and then you shoot, and then you're just like, yeah, I didn't say that, or I forgot to mention that. Like I'm like, the interesting thing with this Drac Knight is that most of these have a 5 amp ESCs, and this one has 12. So that's different.
yeah,
How many kV are?
it definitely gets a bit like that because so it's like, all right, I'm gonna try not to list all the specs every time and just talk about like the differences. Like, why would you buy this over the most common thing? And for a while, it was like, why would you buy this over the Ishin Wizard? Because like that was the most popular, and like everybody knew that in their mind as a benchmark. Okay, it's better than this, worse than this, way more expensive. Instead of just like, yeah, like you said, just reading the spec sheet on a YouTube video. It's like, come on.
Do you talk to yourself a lot? Like, do you ever like plan when you're making a video like you talking to yourself,
I kind of
or do you
I'll
script it?
I usually don't script anything. I just
Okay.
hit record and like say what I'm gonna say. But I try to plan a little bit more in the more recent years. Like my probably the first 3 or 4 years, I would literally just hit record and start talking. But then what I notice is like a lot of times I'll start talking in circles because I didn't plan anything. So then I'll go back and
More
mention a
editing.
point that I mentioned. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, if I talk about, so I'll plan it in my mind a little bit. Like, all right, talk about how it feels, talk about the components, talk about what makes it different, and then talk about something and kind of go from there.
Acrobrat.
Um, that's what it was, the Acrobrat. Yes.
The trash bucket. Oh man, because you can just trash it, not because it's trash. Okay. I talk to myself in the shower or like anywhere, like, and then my wife will always be like, "What?" Or she'd be like, "Why are you talking to yourself?" I'm like, "I'm planning for a video." I'm like,
I mean, it's the same thing. I basically do it, just not out loud, but it's like kind of the same.
yeah, I don't know, I don't know. So over the years, what's been like the most revolutionary thing to you? Like,
Oh man. for like as far as like a piece of individual tech, like this DJI coming around in general was like, if you could go back to like a year before the original DJI goggles and Vista and Air Unit came out, and you would have said like, why can't you have footage that looks like a GoPro? And like the V1 didn't quite look like a GoPro, but it was much closer than analog. And everyone would have said, even Barbara would have said, like, that's 10 years away at least, if not, if we can ever even have it, like if technology even can support sending that much data with that low latency. And then it just came out of nowhere. It was like something from the future. And the first few times flying it, it just like it almost brought a tear to my eye. Like I never thought I could fly and
I can
actually
see.
see everything in that much detail. And then like when I got this the dang potato drone, which was that was essentially like it would eventually become like the O3 technology. Like I think they were testing it there, and then came the Avata, then came that, but it had a better image than the Vista. And even flying that, I was like, oh my gosh, eventually we're gonna have this, and like we and it just keeps getting better. So like that part is cool. I remember probably 5 or 6 years ago, like DJI was out, but we couldn't race with it, and we had a race like at a high school, and the teachers came were involved, and they brought some of the students, and they had like a whole bake sale and all this stuff. And I remember sitting there flying, and I could hear like a few students over my shoulder because someone had handed them like a little FPV monitor to watch our racing analog feed, and they weren't like excited. They weren't like, "Oh my god, that's so cool," or like, "I can't believe these guys can do that." They were I heard one say to another kid, "Is that what they're looking at? Is that what they're seeing? Because if that's what they're looking at, I feel sorry for them." Like,
A kid
they were
actually said that?
they were just so disgusted. And I'm like, they weren't even marveling at the miracle of flight, like nothing. And I was like, okay, like it's got to get better from here. And but now I feel like if you could show someone an O3 feed, they would be blown away for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll let people watch like a from the goggles
Yeah.
after a flight, or like I have like a couple dives saved in there, so I'll just let them watch a dive or whatever. But that is like sometimes I want to see what they're seeing when I know they're flying analog, like Phoenix. Do you know how to say Phoenix or Phoenix? That freestyle guy,
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
because he flies analog and he just like rips, and I just want to see like what his feed is looking like.
That was probably terrible, but the latency is great.
Yeah, I know. It's just like sometimes though, it's just like oh, I just want to see what they're seeing because YouTube is such a lie in some ways where it's like we all want to put like our best footage or whatever, and then people see that and they think that's what it's like, and it's like you don't know what it's like. It can be so bad, and that can be sometimes like part of the excitement. Like when you like like I don't know if you like you take it to the edge and you kind of know where that edge is, but then sometimes maybe
Oh
you
yeah.
want to do something. So like now on the O3, I trust it so much. I'm like, there's that building way over there, and there's these two things connecting it, and I want to go do a split S over.
Mm.
There's an excitement in like getting like where everything starts getting all latency.
Yeah, see, from like for the longest time, like I don't go like just randomly freestyle too
Hmm.
much anymore. But what I would normally do, like if I was reviewing like the new Apex or whatever, I would always make a lap around like very low to the ground and slow, like around the area I plan to fly in to see like where those dead spots were, even when like on a Vista or something. And then like that would be my boundary, and I wouldn't go outside of it just because I didn't want to like lose video and crash. But yeah, you're right. With the O3, it's like you almost don't even need to do that anymore.
Yeah. Okay. What there was, I had another thought. What was that thought? brain. Do you have any questions
So,
for me?
well, what do you think has been the biggest innovation since you started flying?
I've only been doing it 3 years, so I'm just like I'm
Mm.
so happy that I got into it when I did
Oh, yeah, that's a
because
cool time to start. Yeah.
basically like it was September when I saw my first video, basically FPV video. I'm like, I fed a snake with a drone, and I'm the first guy in the world to feed a snake with a drone.
Wow, that's crazy.
So then I imagined, I'm like, I want one of those big drones so I can go to the park with my big snake and feed like a giant rat and like film it. These are like my ideas of grandeur, right? And and then I'm researching drones, and then that guy UVA Features.
Yeah, yeah,
Good
yeah.
day, mates. Like,
Yeah.
and I just saw it was. I think it was maybe the Dodo RC. So then him and like John Coopy and and you and just I started watching all the reviews. It was like winter was coming in Toronto. So then over the whole winter, I've just watched like everything, and I got a Armaton Tadpole space grade. You made, you
Nice.
made
Nice.
the space grade special. I ripped it. Anyways, yeah. So I got the Dodo RC. I got the Tadpole, and I got the Petrel, the 3 inch 6S little HGLRC Petrel.
All
So
right, right.
all three of them, I smashed the front right arm.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, it's FPV. I can take these parts, Frankenstein them together. But the frames, like the Petrel has a 16 by 16. The stack, the Armaton had a 16 by 16. And then the Tadpole had a 20 by 20. And it only fits that. And then the motors were they were they weren't compatible with each other.
Right. Yep.
Like it was
Yep.
just they. So I'm just like I have these three broken drones, and I can't fly any of them. So that was kind of what sent me down the journey of like I need to make a frame. Like I need to design something. So I tried to find people to design for me, and it's just you can't
Yeah.
you can't send to someone what's in your mind. And I have
Right.
really really bad ADD, and so it's just learning anything is just terrible. So, but I learned how to do AutoCAD and design my frame,
Nice.
and I made sure that my frame. So I made basically a 3.5 frame that takes 12 millimeter motors or 8 millimeter motors, the 20 stack, the 25 stack, or the 35, and it has mounting for 20 on top, and it has toilet tank underneath or on top. So it it basically does everything. And I'm just like I spent 2 years working on that, so it's just I can do everything with that. And
Nice.
that was kind of what really got. And then from that you get into 3D printing. Do you do 3D? You do 3D printing too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I've probably had. I think I'm on my 11th printer right now, or something like that. So I lived through all of those painful Creality years, and
Now you got a
thankfully
bamboo.
now I'm doing everything on bamboo, and like I still have one left. I have one Prusa left. I had four. I have one left that I can't even give away like now, because like nobody even wants them anymore. Like, uh,
Like,
but yeah, that hobby's come a long way too.
and I have the curse. I call it like the FPV curse because it's like, you know, you've had worked with the Sprite before. The Sprite
Mm.
direct drive extruder.
Oh, oh,
So
I don't think I've ever. No.
sometimes things in those things get a little funny, and then you got to take them apart and adjust stuff. And it's just like I
Mm,
just got like a few orders for my frames, so I got to do like the 3D prints for them. And sure enough, like as
nice.
soon as somebody orders something, now it's like March break, my kid is off, and I have to spend like hours fiddling with that thing to get it to work. It's like,
Oh
I'm
man.
sorry. I should get a bamboo. I should get a bamboo.
Dude, it's game changing because I mean I've been there before. Like I've spent untold hours like fixing and recalibrating and changing parts on Ender 3s or Creality CR10s, and even my Prusas, like the Prusa was a big jump in like not messing with it as much, but you would still have to like, you know, unhook all the extruder and fix a clog and fix a wire that was worn out on the thermistor or some randomness. And the bamboo's just been like every time I want to print, I just click. I don't even have to watch it, and then it's just done like every time. And in fact, Creality, I don't know if it's actually Creality, but somebody reached out to me wanting to send me like whatever Creality's new printer is, the K something, and it's got like it's basically like all the features of Bamboo. But I was like, how much does it cost? And they were like, it was like $650, and I was like, I mean, what do you want me to say? Because I'm if you send me one, I'm just gonna say if it's the same money, go buy the bamboo. Like, why even mess with it? So like, so don't send it to me unless you're gonna send it. If you sell it for full 100, okay, that's something. But so like, I got Anchor to send me one, or they reached out to me and actually sent me one, and but their printer's like half the price. It's like 330. So I'm like, all right, if you want to spend less, that one's good too. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the pain. Well, I feel it with everything. Like action
you're
cams.
You're right on that edge though. Like you're like just under what 3,000 ish subs. Like once you get to like 5 ish, like I mean you're probably already getting people to send you stuff now, but it'll just like keep growing, right? And you'll get more expensive stuff. Like, once you hit 5 or 10, people will send you a 3D printer here and there.
Yeah,
Um
I'm a Amazon Vine tester. I don't know if you know what that is.
I don't think so. What is that?
So it's crazy, but like basically anytime someone wants to sell something on Amazon, like a new seller, they can say, "Hey, we're going to give you 30 of our products. Give them to your
mm.
testers." And they do that. They opt in to do reviews.
Mm.
So then all of us like members of that program, so like every day I can look and see what the new products of the day are. So it's like every day there's like this I have like a softbox light that's like the new stuff. I like the oh not these. These bloody like these are the new Sony headphones and they have
Oh
like
yeah.
really good noise canceling.
Mm-hmm.
But like when I talk they stop when you talk, they stop doing the thing. So I'm just like, damn it, right? I call these the, like Dragon Ball Z ones. And like these are my favorite, like the newest, like Sony, like earbuds and stuff. But like I get everything for free anyways. And what I love about it is that like it's for Amazon, so you don't have to feel like you have to say something good.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah.
like if it's crap, you say it. Like so Sony made like these for gaming. They made like these they're called in in game earbuds or something. They're like
Yep.
$300. They're 2.4 like gigahertz and they're supposed to be for gaming. But the audio just goes on them. And it's just like
Mm.
they're worse than the Dragon Ball Z.
So, dude, I mean, you could just make a quick YouTube video about any of these products and have like a nice consumer
I just
electronics
don't
channel.
enjoy it. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. So it's like on my Snake channel, I have 12,000 subscribers, and
Okay, nice.
I hate the reptile community. And then here, like I just I love FPV. Like I love you guys. I love the community. So it's just like this is just like if I can get to the point where it's like I can like pay for my hobby or whatever, like
Right.
that's all I really want from it. But like HGLRC just sent me three drones, and
Good.
I'm like
Yeah.
the baby shark. it just flies like crap.
The baby shark.
So I actually, so get this. I took the baby shark. Where is the bloody baby shark?
That's funny that they made Baby Shark. They're like, come on, guys, y'all are like 3 years late on the whole Baby Shark trend.
But just to
But
show you like what happens with me, right?
oh, there we go. Yeah.
So just that's 2.5 grams saved.
Oh, with the camera mount.
I just made a mount for it.
Mm.
So I took off that hideous shark.
Oh, it actually looked like a shark. I
Yeah,
got
so
you.
so basically that shark mount was three over 3 grams.
Mm.
And then this mount is half a gram.
What a bunch of noobs.
Yeah, so 2.5 grams of weight savings. But then when I direct soldered these motors, it killed an ESC.
uh,
Have you had that problem ever?
um, no, because I'm way too lazy to do that.
And I'm too insane to just leave it alone. Like
Um,
I see the plugs and I can't not do, like I destroy it instead of just leaving them.
so like I'm working on a review of 533 started selling these
I know the
racing tiny
plugless,
whoops.
the M3
And
connectors.
yeah, they do all that for you because like but it's a premium price though. You pay for someone else to do it. So like I've always had some of these builds where it's like I know I could get better performance, but I'm just like too lazy. And I don't really race tiny whoops, but I was like, you know what? Let me just buy like one really nice one and see if I can tell the difference. And I can tell the difference. It flies way better. Like,
Well, like then see the thing is like this one. So this blew my mind. Like I was actually you've flown one of these, right?
that's 2.5 inch.
That's the 2 inch Draknite.
Oh, 2 inch. I don't know if I had that one specifically, but like for a while I was doing a ton of like that 2.5, 3 inch. Like I probably have a whole bunch over there. Like I have the Diatone Cube and the Baby Ape and
Just one sec,
Baby
one
Hawk
sec. What?
and
It's done?
yep.
Okay, I'll be right back.
All right. All right, we're just gonna keep on rolling. We're here on the Toronto FPV channel coming to you live from Canada. It's kind of crazy how in Canada they have like a whole different system of money. Is it Canada? It's not pesos, right? What is it? Canada? Is it dollars? Is it Canadian coins? It's not pounds, right? Um, and
Continue.
I was just talking about like I don't know what the difference is between Canada. Like y'all have like do y'all have dollars or is
It
it pounds?
sucks, man. It sucks. That's like it sucks because it's like I see here all your prices like yeah, 60 Avery, watch your movie. I put movies on for her. My kid doesn't usually get to watch TV till the end of the day. Like I don't let her like so I'm a full-time dad basically, and then I run a salon on Friday and Saturday. And then we have 100 snakes behind that wall.
Now is the snake thing a hobby and a business as well?
Basic, I built my life around like making a living doing things I enjoy.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome, man.
yeah, so the hairdressing was just it was amazing, and then COVID just kind of hurt it a lot,
Mm,
and then the animals was pretty amazing, and then just the community. The community doesn't like me because I'll like take my snakes outside.
mm,
Stuff like that where it's just like you have to understand like there's a huge difference with an animal that has never been interacted with and an animal that you've interacted with from the time it's born,
right, right. That
or
makes
even
sense to me.
yeah, or even just an animal from the wild. Like it's just if you think of a wolf and you think of a dog, that's how different it is when you have an animal that you've raised and like I've held these snakes in my hand from the time they're born. So
Right, right.
they don't even conditioning like so when I clean my snakes I'm blasting Eurobeats. So it's like, so they're used to noise, they're used to like all that stuff. So if you took an animal that wasn't used to any of that and then exposed them to that, that would be kind of, nasty. But same thing with Avery. Like some parents take their kids and they're like, they make it all quiet and they put their kid to bed at 6 p.m. And then they're like, I don't understand why it wakes up at 4 in the morning. So it's just like me and my wife, we'll watch movies, we'll do whatever, keep making noise, let her be out. And then around 9 o'clock, she just goes to bed on her own.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then she sleeps as long as we do. And then she wakes up when we do. But people don't get like the difference between like it's not just what you do, but it's how you do it. So that's always kind of caused, I guess, problems in my life. Because I have a few like I have borderline personality, and with that, it's like I think the thing that lots of people have that stops them from doing stuff, it's just not there in me. So it's like I just like the first thought that comes into my head usually like I really want to do it, and it might be something that maybe I shouldn't do, but it's just my brain is just like I want to touch the CN Tower, You're just like I want to put a one of those, what is that stick? The barbecuing stick, the shish kebab stick.
Yeah.
I'm just like you put a shish kebab stick on a drone with a 3D printed like hand with a finger, and you fly it up to the top and you touch the tip. It's such a stupid thing, but it's just like that. Like those are the things that like run through my mind and make me happy.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds fun. I mean, uh, I wish I was there this day, but like I wasn't. But I don't even know why they did it. But I remember Lamone putting out a video at our buddy Andy's place. They wanted to see if they could fly
The table.
like this the table. You remember that one? And
Yeah.
that was like that table's got to be like 40 pounds or 30 pounds. It was like a freaking metal table, and I didn't even think that they would be able to get off the ground. I was like, dude, that is freaking science, man. I love it.
So I have like this problem solving mind that also gets me into trouble because people I think that from the time we go to school we're taught to conform, we're taught to like you have to do things this way, you have to get a good job, you have to like follow all these rules. And then just from the time I was little, I wanted to be a tattoo artist. So I found a guy on eBay and I got all the equipment and I started tattooing my arm and all my friends in high school. And I got myself in so much trouble that eventually like I was getting like kicked out of every school, and I took co-op just to finish high school, and they put me in a hair salon. I was just like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, wait a sec. Women pay you to hang out with them all day. And then it's just like from that, it was like work my butt off, get a hair salon, and then work my butt off, do this. It's always been just like you want something, just work your butt off and make it happen. So,
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
so I've always had a hard time with people saying like you can't do that or you shouldn't do that. Like those are the kind of things where it's like okay, watch me, you know?
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what to talk about. What would you like to talk about?
Let's see. So snakes, drones. That's
Photography.
kind of cool. Okay, yeah, yeah, that goes together with drones a lot.
Well, the hair. So from hair, I actually worked in like the top end hair salons. So I did hair for Miss Canada, Miss Universe, and all that stuff. So I was
Wow.
always in fashion, which turned me into a drug addict and an alcoholic, and like just backstage at fashion shows with I always had a water bottle full of vodka,
Mm,
and we're just doing hair shows, and then from all those hair shows and working with models, we'd be doing photo shoots all the time. And then from photo shoots, I picked up photography because I'm like, I'm here styling hair. one of my photographer friends gave me an old D300, you know, the Nikon D300
Mm-hmm. Nikon, yeah.
with an 85 millimeter lens,
Nice.
and then I started like bringing the camera and like, hey, do you care if I take a couple shots? And it all kind of would synergize. And then once getting into snakes, I walk around the streets of Toronto with my snake, and then girls come and touch my snake, and then I give them my business card and say, hey, if you need a hairdresser, I have a shop down the street.
Now, do you have snakes in the shop?
Back then, like, so I used to have a 600 square foot hair salon, and then behind the hair salon, I had 1,000 square foot open space.
Ah,
And basically, I had a big TV with my bed, so I lay in bed and watch TV, and then I have my snakes everywhere and my motorcycle, and it was just. And then
wow.
I built my hair salon by dressing up as a superhero. I watched Kick Ass. You saw Kick Ass?
Mm.
I thought that movie was so awesome. It was like when the kid was walking down the street with his superhero costume on, and everyone's looking at him like, "What the heck's that guy doing?" Then one of my friends made like outfits all the time, so I'm like, "Hey, can you make me a superhero costume?" So she made me like a neon spandex. I went and picked up all the materials. I got this neon spandex superhero costume. And then I started blasting like superhero music, like Hans Zimmer and stuff. I go
Yeah.
down the streets of Toronto and be like, like I go to the corner and I'd start cutting people's hair, and then I started cutting all the homeless kids' hair, and then I got known for that. So I was on all the news channels, and it was just so I was on the news one week for the snakes, then I was on news the next week with the superhero, then someone made a documentary about me, so it was just I was kind of blowing up on everything, and everything was good, and then COVID just came and went.
Oh man.
It was nuts how you can go from like to nothing. And
Yeah, for sure.
the craziest was actually that I got a job with a big media company actually to be a drone pilot. My buddy like shooed me in, and he had all the equipment, and he just didn't want to do it. Like he didn't want to do that part because he's like their media person. And so he basically hooked me up with a job where he was going to let me fly his drone and go and get just stock footage for them. Like, hey, we're doing a story here. You got to go and like shoot here. Here's a few $100, just a couple days a month. It was like the perfect job for me. And then 2 weeks later, I'm taking my snake home on the subway, and someone, it was 12 a.m. and everyone like loved it, but some guy pulled out his phone, filmed me, and he sold it to all the media. So if you just put in TTC snake, you'll see me on the Sunday Sun with my snake. Like so then that went all over the news, and then that company didn't hire me because of that.
Oh,
So it was like
it
it
was
caught.
because they didn't want snakes on the subway,
Well, they
or
had
what?
a contract with the TTC, like
Oh,
with the whole
gotcha, gotcha.
subway system, and it was such a stupid thing because it was.
Yeah, freaking subway mafia.
But that was probably like the worst, where it was just like just being nuts has really got me jobs, but then it's also cost me jobs.
I mean, yeah.
But like if you're out there, like that's what happens. You get people that hate you, you get people that love you, you get people that are like you're nuts, and then you get other people that are entertained, right? But I think about the Prestige. You've seen the Prestige, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
I just love that line when, like, at the end, where like you don't know what it took, and he's like, "It was the look on their faces." It's just when you make someone kind of go wow, or like when you just think to yourself, I wonder if I could do this, or like finding some stupid thing that no one's ever done before and just be like, I did it.
Yeah.
Like because what is new, like everything kind of is done, and everything is it gets difficult to find something like exciting and different, right? So I crave that experiencing the jollies of doing something you haven't done, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's kind of the thing. I think that's why one of the reasons why FPV checks off a lot of boxes for a lot of people, because it's really like six hobbies in one. I mean, it's like learning how to build, learning how to fly, doing interesting flights. If you're a collector, you can collect all of the gear, and it's a little bit of videography and photography, and it's like for me it hit a lot of the things that I had in individual separate hobbies and sort of combined them. And I was a kind of person that would just like collect hobbies, and sometimes they would last for 2 or 3 months, sometimes they might last as long as a year or two. But this is the thing that I've stuck with like the longest by far, because I just haven't gotten sick of it so far.
You like Gundam and like building those models and stuff, or more just collecting them?
I have done some. I have like a big perfect grade over there. Um, and I probably only did about, I don't know, less than 10, but they were fun to do. Like I mostly just liked having them on the shelf. And I know a lot of people enjoyed like the building part, and I was like, it was fun, but it wasn't something I would do all the time. And I remember I went somewhere where they had this random display case, and it was like 50 custom painted like Gundam, like somebody that was super talented with like airbrush. And I stood outside that display case for like, it was close to where I worked, so I would just go there. And like they would rotate it, so I knew it was only going to be there for like a month, and I went there on my lunch break like multiple days just to check out how cool it was. But yeah, that was a hobby. For a while I had another hobby of like when all the Transformers like Bay movies came out, I would buy like the toys, and I would like get paints and like paint them to where they looked like more screen accurate, like little metal here, a little more this there. And like that was just like like a nerdy single guy habit
Did you do
I had. And
Warhammer at all?
I never did, but that was like right along the same lines. Like that probably would have been the next step. And I remember I owned this townhome for a while, and when I moved in, there was like this big, they had like a wet bar, and above it, the previous owner had cut out like this big thing and put a plexiglass with like red shiny material. And they had some sort of a religious shrine. And of course, they moved out. I didn't know what to do with that. So I just put Transformers in there. And so people would come over, and like, of course, all my friends, like this is like in our 20s, they'd be like, "This is freaking awesome, dude! You got like Transformer Shrine," but like it wasn't like a big hit with the ladies all the time.
Whatever, man. The less you care about that, the better. Trust me.
Right, that's right.
That's what I learned, man. You try to please them, they're just not happy anyways. You kind of keep them a little bit annoyed all the time, and they keep coming back for more.
I was like totally oblivious, and I wish I would have been more aware of like what must it look like as a female to come into like some guy's house and he's got like hundreds of Transformers like in the living room.
See, like if if I wasn't married, like I would love to do like little like where you're filming, like you go into a bar, you dress up and you're like you try to pick up girls being like you're a pilot. And then you set up a date like you're going to take them flying, right? And you get them to meet you in like the field in the middle of nowhere. And you
Uh,
pull out your drone and start flying it and you just film the whole reaction. I think that would just be bloody hilarious.
oh man, that's a good one. Somebody's got to do that.
Someone has to do that, man. Did you see the crazy? There's he's like a German guy, I think, and he was flying FPV like down to Ski Hill, like on a on a sled.
Hmm.
There,
I
there,
don't
there,
think so.
you got
He was
you'll
on the
find him.
sled.
But yeah, he's on a sled. So it's like he tried doing it where he's going on the sled while flying FPV, but he couldn't. but he did it with like someone else. So like he's holding on, and like
Oh man.
I want to do that on the back of a motorcycle. I just want to like fit the FPV goggles and hold. That'd be fun.
Man, I have these friends that they're big into like off-roading, like these I don't know what they're called. They're like little, it's more than a Jeep, but it's bigger than like a golf cart.
It's like
It's
those
like a
four
four-wheeler,
wheelers.
like a side by side, I think they
Okay.
call it. So it's like a four-wheeler, but it has like four seats. And they love going off-roading and stuff, and they're like, "Oh man, you got to bring a drone and chase us." And I was like thinking, I don't know if I could
The
like not
motion makes
crash
you
if I'm in
feel.
something that's like doing this.
Yeah,
It would be interesting to see. But
you can. It's just the extra motion. Do you find that sometimes you get that and sometimes you don't? Like where like I find usually I'm fine, but once in a while when I do a dive, like I feel that feeling in your belly like you're falling, and I think that's part of what I like about like dives so much.
mm,
Do you notice that like with flying sometimes you get that, sometimes you don't?
yeah, for sure. I think part of that's why like I had to start sitting down.
Mm.
Because like you said, if you're standing, a lot of people used to like to stand and
You get a
fly,
little
and
sick.
yeah, if you do something too crazy, you just like fall all the way over. I felt like I almost did that a few times.
But when you sit, I just feel like you spend the whole time staring at your crotch. Like I find when I stand, I can keep myself up a bit better. And then with dives, I'm standing and I'm looking up so that I don't lose the signal.
That's true. The signal's better.
But every time I sit, I feel like I'm just like, oh, you're just like always like I'm tilted to the side and down. At the races, it's fun. Like I like recording people at the races when they don't even know you're filming them, and you just like film what they look like.
That is the best. Yeah, nobody has a good race face.
Someone should do that where like instead of how they show all the tracks, they just show all the faces like up close and we get to see their expressions. That could be like a whole channel there, like FPV faces.
It's happening. It's happening.
Uh, okay, pet peeves. Do you have any like? Is there anything that really like? What bothers you the most in FPV?
um, oh, probably easily a lot of people in the beginner groups that uh,
Power
basically
up.
the problem is that they don't know how to fly. And so they come in asking a lot of questions about tuning. There's something wrong with my drone, like whatever. And they'll find a video that's probably like 5 years old about like tuning PIDs or something that really isn't relevant anymore. And so you go and try to tell them like, look, your problem, like you have to say it in a nice way, but your problem is you just don't know how to fly. So like the solution to your problem is not tuning. You don't know how to tune, and if you don't know what you're doing, you're actually going to like risk burning your whole drone. So just like stop messing with the tune and just only focus on flying more. Just more stick time. Stop trying to tune your quad. But like I usually hang out in some of those beginner groups just because try to help people. And then like if you're making content, to know like what is the popular question that people want to know, or what's the popular binder fly. And that one comes up multiple times a week, and it's like, how do we get the word out
Well, the
to just,
presets.
yeah, the presets, like
Like
it's you really don't need it anymore.
I think Lyman. I'm like,
Yep.
can you help
Yeah,
me
he
make a
did it.
preset?
Yeah.
But I can't like that. Like I can't follow that bloody GitHub thing. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Oh yeah, me neither.
And I feel like with him, like he's like, I gave you instructions, follow them, you moron. I was just like, I'm too dumb, please help me. So I haven't like gone forward with that because I'm just like, But like
Yeah,
I like him so much. Like I like him. I like his videos and everything. I'm like I'm gonna be that moron that like pisses him off because I don't know what he's like. Go into the presets and use one of the others and then change it. I'm like, how? I don't know how. Like, can I give you a diff file?
yeah. He's
Oh.
we used to have this argument for a long time at the night spot every time because he was barely starting to do dev work for Betaflight, and it was always the eternal argument of like, somebody that's more on the operations side as an analyst arguing against the development team. And for me, it's like the only problem is usability. It's too hard. Like, stop making extra features because the new pilots can't use them. It has to be easier. And like, I don't know if that's what made him do it, but eventually, like, he started making a lot of the things he built were usability. So like the presets, and he also did the motor remapping tool. And he's very modest. Like, he always downplays it, like, oh, I only did those because I'm not smart enough to do the other
He's
parts. But I'm like,
smart,
dude,
man.
yeah,
He's so smart. I always say he's like the guy that he makes the most effort looking like he's not making an effort.
yeah, right.
Like I'm like those videos that he makes, like yeah, whatever, I don't care. I'll make another one if I feel like it. But it's just like there's so much effort that goes into those videos. I remember like the first time I saw like one of his videos with his buddy, and I'm just like, this guy's like excellent, and he can talk about anything, and it's entertaining.
Right. And I remember when he first got here, he was always his English is always been good, and it's way better now than like 7 years ago. But he's always very self conscious about it, and I'm like, dude, I could understand you like the first day I met you. Like, stop being self conscious about it. Like, you speak way better English than I can speak any other language. Like, stop stressing about it. But I know he goes and re-records things, and like my superpower of making like these content is like I can usually just talk about like something that at least I know about. So the downside is I can't make a channel about like something I don't know, but for FPV stuff I can just talk and it's not that much effort. I can make a video in 30 minutes, edit it in 3 4 hours, and then boom, I'm done. But I know for some of those videos he's doing technical like instructions, and it's probably he'll tell me, he'll be like, dude, it takes me like 40 hours to make a video. I'm like, oh man. But I'm like, keep doing it though, man. You're so good. Like, I
You
would be
you
telling
put
him
the
at the night
cinematic
spot, like,
tone on.
yeah, a little bit, but like it sickened me how good his first 5 videos were. And I was like, it took me like 300 videos to even get to there. And you're like doing it like without even trying. Like,
Yeah.
what the
It took me a year just to get used to doing that, like looking at the camera and talking, because it's just
right. Yeah,
I'm all by
100%.
myself, like,
Right.
moron. And then my wife, like, so my wife is like, she's not my enemy, but she's my anti fan.
Yeah.
So it's just like when I edit, I always have headphones on usually, and then I don't like that because I like to hear it so that for people that are watching, and,
Right.
and like she'll like she she doesn't get me, right? She's like, you have a complex, you just like looking at yourself and listening to yourself. I'm like, I hate it. Like, I hate editing. Like, I don't want
You
to
like
bloody
looking at
look at
yourself?
myself and listen to myself. I wish someone else did it for me, but I'm making $50 a month.
Right. It is tough. And like that's also my downfall is like I can talk off the cuff, but I'm too lazy to ever go re-record and fix something. So I'll either just cut the whole part or just leave like the mess up. So
But that works.
it never gets as polished as I kind of want it. But I'm like, if I did that,
Too
I
much
would
time.
spend twice as much, and I'm not gonna make any more than like, yeah, like you said, $50 a month.
No, I'm serious. Like, I make $50 a month on this channel. So
you missed the big Banggood gravy train from a few years before
I
that.
missed,
Like,
that's the thing that I missed. I missed all that like good stuff, right? Like now it's just like when COVID shut me down, they gave me basically like 10K for my business, and I didn't have any problems back then. So I just spent
mm.
10K on FPV, and that's how I got in. And like ever since then, now I've been just broke like month to month, and like continuing with like trying to progress stuff, you know. But like another O3, I have to make a video about this too, because I try to make videos like if something helps me, just get the video up. But I make videos for the reptile channel. I have a daily vlog, so it's just like that's videos every single day. But I did that because I'm like I want to be better at editing, and by doing that, it
Hmm,
forces you to be better. And then the drone channel, but the drone is just like I love the drone channel. But what? Yeah, so I was looking at a wiring diagram really carefully when I wired up my O3 to my flight controller. So you pull up the flight controller thing and it shows the diagram of the air unit, but it's the V1 air unit.
oh no.
Okay? So it's all bloody backwards. So I took a brand new
Uh,
O3, wired it up, and reverse polarity. There goes my first air unit.
uh,
I was just
ouch.
like, it's like that. And that's the same thing happened to me with like a Runcam Orange 4 because they have the wiring different than most other things. So it's just like I've been screwed so many times with just stupid mistakes where it's just like I pulled up the wiring diagram. I did it all like
Yeah. Yeah, it happens. It happens to everyone. In fact, I learned, I don't know how many years ago, like, no matter how badly you want to fly tomorrow, never come home and try to build like after happy hour or being out at the bar or whatever, because like you're always gonna blow something up. I learned that one the hard way. And like even I remember when I first started, like in like any component was a lot of money back then. And I remember wanting to upgrade a camera, and it was like I didn't really understand the voltages that I was trying to put on a camera that could only take 5 volts to wiring that had full voltage. And I of course immediately fried it, and I didn't know why I fried it, so I plugged in another one, fried that one, and just like
that's exactly what I did with my first two. No, okay, so get this. My first Runcam Orange, okay, first Runcam Orange. I put it on a Crux 35, and there's a building that has a staircase. It's a library, and it has a staircase that comes out of the building and back into the building. So there's a hole in the middle of the staircase. I'm just like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna bloody dive through that hole. So I take my Crux 35 and I dive through the hole and I do it 4 times. And you start flying back, and I'm like, yeah, I'm at like 3.8. I can do it one more time. So I go do it one more time. And I hit something, it hits the ground. I get back, and all you get, like both arms, all the arms are gone. All that's left is the strap, the Runcam Orange, and the battery. So like
oh man.
that's what I got. The Runcam Orange is cracked, and the micro SD card is cracked.
Oh,
So the footage of it being
gone.
accomplished, done. And then right after that, when I got my next two Runcam Oranges, I did what you did.
Eesh. Yeah, that always stings.
So for the longest time, I just didn't. So I built this channel on like without any action cam footage. So I'm just like, as soon as I got the O3, I'm like, yay, finally beautiful footage for everyone. So I have this curse with action cams that like
uh,
I broke like 5 of them, and then run cam thumbs. I lost 3 of those little run cam thumbs,
Oh yeah, yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, it was like very easy to fly out of whatever mount you had.
Like three of them, and then the Runcam Thumb Pro is good, and I designed a mount for it, so it's like, but even that the camera fell off, and then I took a different lens from one of my other broken ones and I stuck it on. But you see,
Oh, nice.
so that's a Runcam Thumb Pro,
Mm,
and
that's a cool little design.
I covered it in E6000, and then I made this mount so that I can put ND filters on these
Oh yeah, yeah.
and then stick them on.
Heck yeah.
And then this has a soft TPU around the plug.
Mm,
So
yep.
if it hits, this kind of takes the hit, but it also lets you push the button.
Ah, oh, that's pretty clever. Yeah,
And then the
I like
protect,
that.
see how it protects the motors and the frame?
Yeah.
Yeah, so all the little custom things.
Heck yeah, man.
Dun, 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 dun.
What else you got?
I don't know. Ask me anything.
When are you going to your first race, or
Oh
to
no,
your next
I
race?
have
To your next race. Your next race.
the bloody. I'm gonna make a T-shirt that says I hate whoops. I bloody hate them. I hate the little motors and all the little like the twitchiness and it just they're just like they're so unenjoyable.
Yeah.
But then it's so fun to go to those races and be with the people. Like that's what makes it good. It's
Right.
like I'm
I
willing
wanna
to
I wanna
suffer.
do that. I do. I've never actually raced whoops, and I wanna do it because, like, I kind of agree. Like, I used to really love flying in my house until I realized, well, I mean, it's freaking Texas. We could fly 5-inch year round. So I didn't do it that much for a few years, and then they started getting a little better, a little more fun. But like I would get one for review, I'd fly it 10 times, and then I would get bored and like go back to the night spot the next week.
Yeah, no, you already have the dream. Like you don't need to
Yeah.
submit yourself to that. Like
But I do like the idea of traveling to a whoop race and like all my gear is just like in a little
yeah.
compartment like this. Like that would be cool. Like after flying with a bunch of 5-inch and lipos and chargers and all that stuff, um, that does seem appealing. And a lot of the fast people are doing whoop racing, and there's a lot of big prize purses out there. Not that I would ever win any, but there's so many people racing, they have multiple levels. And so, like, if there's a middle ground prize pool, like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm all about.
Yeah, at the races like when I do 3 laps, like that's all I want to do. Like I don't even give
Oh,
a crap.
yeah.
Like if I can get 3 laps, it was the joke. Like whenever I did it, I'd be like king of the world, like like king of the world. I did it. Like I'm usually like 15th. Like I'm like right in the middle usually. But see, for me, I spent a lot of time with the trying to figure out a good tune. Because like you know how you said, just fly. Like
Right.
I found that when you just fly and you don't like how your quad flies, it makes everything worse.
It drives you crazy.
Yeah, so it's just like
But
that.
like I would almost argue a little bit that part of the physical changes are actually going to make it fly better. Like all the stuff you were talking about earlier, like you designed it this way and you flip the battery this way, and or you like do all the, like those will make a big difference. And tuning will too, but it's like you have to really commit yourself to learning what all those little values mean. And if you do it, you do get a nice payoff.
And the
But a lot of times the noobs are like, just tell me like 3 settings so I can go change them and make and so my quad will fly perfectly. But it's like it doesn't work like that.
yeah, yeah, the tuning. I think though part of it is tuning and part of it is just balance. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I think physical differences in the quad actually make a lot more difference.
yeah, because when you have good electronics trying to push a crap balance thing, where like there's weight here, and that's what I find. There's lots of the time too much weight in the back or the front, and then you're trying to balance it. When you have it, like once I started like getting to the place where I am, like this is so like balanced and like tight. So it's like when I fly it, I don't have as many accidents. I don't crash as much. Whereas
Right. Better control, yeah.
yeah, like so. Whereas before, I was just crashing and destroying everything, and then I'd hear people like talk about like Baby Hawk, the Baby Hawk.
Yep, yep, yep.
And just like when you're turning that thing, you can really kind of like feel the top to bottom, like, and that was the thing that I really noticed. Like you can feel the weight of your quad and how it moves. And then when you have something more, like for instance your racers and those true X's that are just the way that they move is more, you don't feel that weight being like flung in a weird way.
Right. Yeah, it feels, I mean, and it's interesting to hear you say that because like I feel like that, but I'm like, maybe I only feel like that because that's mostly what I fly.
It's for
But
sure.
but if you could feel it and like you do a little bit of like, all kinds of flying, then it probably is a thing. I've been wondering about that for a while. Like is it actually more tighter, or is it just because I'm more used to it?
It's huge. Like I think that that is a huge thing. Like if you take your electronics and you squish them and you get everything just as tight as possible, not like because basically I started watching a lot of Angry Dawn and a lot of Nate. You know Nate,
Hmm.
Shutterbug.
Oh right, yeah, yeah.
So Shutterbug would go insane and make things so light, and then like Angry Dawn just focuses on like the little things, but just getting into that, like realizing like center of gravity and what a big role center of gravity makes into the way it flies, and then also weight, because it's like with all the reviewers too, they're always like shove an 850 on it. You can put up to a 900 and stay up to sub 250. So I started off flying all these 850 batteries, 4S, 900, 1000. And then when I started going to much tighter builds, lighter builds, and then putting a 650 on it, I'm like, wow, I'm flying just about as long. Like, if I put 1404s on one of these builds, I'm flying for like 9 minutes on a six on a 650.
Wow, yeah.
But then you put on more powerful motors and like it goes down to like five.
Right, right.
But messing around with that like weight and balance, you get so much more like freedom and that control that when you take it to the biggest battery you can stick on it to get the most flight time, the quality of that flight time is not as good. And like for instance with racing, I don't know if you've ever noticed the difference between any battery and then using the battery that gets you through those 2 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you put the battery that you know this is the lightest battery I can get away with on the race that'll get me through those 2 minutes, it's a night and day difference. And it's the same thing with the whoops. When you fly the 300s versus the 450s, the 450s are great outside, but the moment you're racing, you need those little 300s because so and that's basically that's like part of tune, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, weight makes a big difference, and it's just always that negotiation of like weight versus durability versus fixed time. But like if you had unlimited quads and unlimited budget or just resets, then like yeah, the lighter quad. Oh, like still to this day, the best feeling quad I ever had was it was actually one of Lamone's old builds. It was like this weird Russian frame that had like a metal. It was almost like a pod, but it was metal. It was like
Was it like the
CNC
shoe?
machined. It was called the I don't know. In Russian it was called like the Bus or something. It was something from Russia, but It was super light. The arms were like sticks, so if you hit anything, they would just explode, and it was so tight. Like it was like the props were only like a millimeter apart, and man, it was really light and it handled just awesome.
So you
And
got to do
back then,
that, and then just make it a little bit like you
yeah,
get to
just a
that
little
point,
bit
and you make it a
more.
little thicker. You make it a little bit more.
I'm curious to go like that, but like, cause like back in those days, we were running like way lighter 4S battery, so that was already like way less weight, and that was like 2205, like hyperlight motors, and so that thing was super light. But I'm wondering if like by today's standards, it would just feel so slow. I'm kind of curious. I might just put together like a retro build just to see how it feels to me now. Because a lot of times, like now, I'm running a 6S battery with 2207 motors, but I'm usually running like 70 or 80% throttle cap. So I'm not even using all the power that's there. So if I could save 60 or 80 or grams, like maybe that's the secret. I'll
Or
have to bust
smaller
out some old.
motors.
Yeah, I'll have to
The,
bust out some old school 2205s or
but
something.
that's the thing, though. I find that people don't think about that. I think that lots of people also are used to, because 5 inch is where the bigger ones, it started that way. So then, if that's what you've been flying all this time, you're going to be used to flying those big things. So then you give somebody something more small, and they're like, "Oh no, you're used to the weight, you're used to carrying it." And it's kind of like if you were into muscle cars, you're into torque, and then there's other people that are into Fast and the Furious, the little race rockets. they're
Right. Yeah, it feels different.
they're totally two different things, and that torque feels amazing on the straight, and it's got that power and everything. But the moment you try to drift with it, like it's so much harder to actually control turning a heavy quad unless you become one with it and you understand the way that it drifts and how you can control that like movement into the turn, versus when you have something kind of light that doesn't have that drift. It's like a firefly that just like zings through it. But
Right.
and that's the difference, basically, the high end or the low end, because it's like anytime that I fly a 5 inch, I know that top end it's faster, but I feel like my 3.5 is faster, because when I turn my 3.5, it doesn't have the weight that a 5 has. It doesn't have the surface area. So it actually turns quicker than the 5 would. But yeah, the
Oh
5
yeah,
the
yeah.
5 will be faster. But people don't talk about that as much, kind of like the high end and the low end. Whereas with cars, you understand that that's like an automatic given. But with the drones, people seem to kind of get caught with like, I really like this power. I want to put 6S on it, and then there's other people that go totally the other way, where they're flying toothpicks that break the moment they touch something. But
Right.
there's that whole range, and there's going to be the pilots that like both those things. I think that the more that we experiment with all these things, the more interesting it comes.
Yeah, that was my favorite thing. Like when I used to review a bit more of like the 3 inch, 3.5 inch, 4 inch, was like taking them all on a track and seeing how they would perform. And sometimes they would perform like really good. And certain tracks, if they were tight, like I could probably be faster with the smaller quad, just because, like you mentioned, like it just goes around corners way better. But there, if any track where there was a long straight, you would of course like lose so much time. The tough part, what I eventually found was like they just weren't as durable. Like a 2207 motor, the bell is like way thicker than like a 1507 or a 1600 something. And so like you would just lose your shirt on motors eventually, or the electronics like couldn't handle like a super hard impact. But a lot of times I would show up to tracks and just race 3 inch or 4 inch like all day.
And did you get your arms cut off a lot too from like collisions ever?
Not that much, because usually you're so light that if somebody taps you, you're like eating the grass right away anyway. So like that was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh man, if someone hits me, I'm gonna explode. But it really wouldn't happen. And it was more like if you hit a tree or a gate, like that would break something. But it wasn't that bad. The thing that would die first though were usually the motors. And then if you did break the frame, though, a lot of those lighter things were all like a unibody plate. So then you're in for a whole rebuild if there's no arm to replace. Like, so that's why like I didn't really compete with them. But whenever there was a couple years like in those Banggood years, like they were just sending out Gep RC, Emax, Diatone, like whatever bind and flies, like everybody would get them. And I was like, oh man, my review is gonna have track footage for sure. And like it was just fun.
Oh, there he is. Limon.
Uh oh, this guy is it sim time?
Is it sim time? Do you gotta go?
No, I mean, I'll probably wrap it up soon. But I heard they were doing Sim Wednesdays. I don't know if that's true.
I
They
stopped.
started they started practicing for the street league race that they just hosted, and I asked them on Sunday. I was like, "So are you guys going to keep doing Sim? Because I usually practice on Sim a couple times a week, and there's always a Thursday online race that's like open to anybody in the public to join."
I used to try
Um,
those, and then I realized that like it's like the top people, like the top
oh,
people are
dude,
there.
I'm middle of the pack in real life, but on sim I'm like the bottom. Like all of the gamer guys go out there that like don't even fly in real life, but online they're like super fast.
They used to wait for me to like, because there's the 3 minutes. They're all done in 1 minute, and they all had to wait for me because I'm just trying to finish it and I couldn't. So they probably hated me for a while, and I didn't even realize what was going on.
Nice. Oh, he said he's gonna still do sim. Oh, because the race after Mayhem is Street League. Yeah, Mayhem's coming up next month, I guess. I think I might sit this one out, but I have done the last few years. That's the big relay team race where it's like 12 hours of racing in a row. It's pretty intense.
My wife just is not supportive at all. Because like basically I carry around usually like usually 2 to 4 packs, and I just wherever I go, like I'll try and rip a couple, and if I can do that, I'm happy.
Mm.
But like I can't make it to the races. I can't really make it to anything, and then lots of time when I make friends here, they move away because it's Toronto, and just Toronto is the worst.
Freaking Canada. Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. Like, I can usually, I've had to take a break for a while, but I'm hoping to get back to racing again. But normally I could fly like maybe 5 times in a month, like usually every Wednesday and maybe like one weekend day. And so for some people that's a lot. And like when we go fly, it's usually like a 5 to 7 hour commitment. Um, like night spot, I'll usually leave my house around 8 o'clock and I'll get home at like 1:30 in the morning or
See, I'd
2.
love that. I would love that. Like
That's the best because it's like not hot because Texas gets crazy in the summer. And
no
then
mosquitoes eating you alive.
sometimes there is. You definitely have to like bring your off in like the summer months. But some of these guys are out there flying like I don't know. Lamone must practice 3 times a week. So he's out there 10, 12 times a month, maybe for hours. And so, like, that's why all these guys are good. Like, when I started getting a little bit good, everybody practiced more. And I was like, there's no way I can compete with somebody that's going 10 times a month when I can only do like 4. And so Joe Mama started beating me, even though he was like, he started as like a big freestyler and then he just grinded until he was fast.
Are you going to Rampage or whatever?
Not Rampage. I'm hoping I'll be able to make it to International Open. Um, that's the big.
Where is
So I guess
that?
that one's in Indiana, Muncie, Indiana. It's probably like 4 hours, like south of Chicago. So it's up a bit north. It's pretty far from me. It's like 1,100 miles away from Texas, but it is fun.
Yeah. Right now, with all the stuff that's gone, I can't do anything like that. But eventually, well, that's also the other art of like YouTube, right? Like you can write off every drone you buy,
Yeah, true.
and all like see people don't in general people don't really think like that, and I've always thought like that. So it's like with the snakes, the money I spend on the snakes, the money I spend on the drones, like I've always minused all my income by purchasing things for my business that I enjoy. And then you
Right
can do
on.
a trip like that and you can write it off for your YouTube.
Yes. Yeah, that is a nice benefit, and I've gotten to do a few pretty fun FPV trips. Thankfully, I was really resistant to it for a long time, and I
Why?
wish I would have started traveling earlier. Like I was like, I don't want to go like 10 hours away just to fly like 15 packs or something. Like I can go to the park and fly 15 packs in 2 hours. Like why do I want to do that? But it is really fun. Like
I've gone on like I've gone to Montreal and to Ohio on my motorcycle for like competitive card games.
whoa,
So if there was something like within like I would do it, man. I'd one of these days maybe I'll take in my motorcycle to some sort of drone meet and my bike will like
dude.
fall
Yeah,
apart.
you could fit tiny whoops in there and go to a whoop race. And we are on Lamo's channel the other day. What's his name? The guy who works for Jim Fan Mike. He
Duran.
called into his show and he was riding a motorcycle while he was on the stream. We were like, dude, what the heck? You're gonna have to pull over, man. Like we can't talk to you like the guy's wild, man. That's a Jim Fan Mike right there. He's dedicated to FPV. I don't know what's up with that dude. That was pretty
I
funny
don't
though.
think he likes me.
Oh, Jim Fan Mike.
I think every video he posts, I'm like, give me some 3D props. I
Do
want,
they make those
I
still?
just want 3.5 3D props.
Oh man,
So it's just,
that's funny.
I was thinking if you took two motors and you put them upside down and then had
Hmm.
the two motors facing this way, that would probably be the best performance out of regular props to do 3D. Don't like
Mm.
yes, no, because
I
then
don't know.
they're
I've never done 3D, so I don't really know.
like
But next time I see Jim Van Mike in person, I'm gonna be like, "Hey, where's Toronto's 3D props
yeah,
at?"
tell them I need 3.5 3D props 3D props and I'll make them popular. I'll just like I'll go full 3D. I don't care. I'll be like the Zoe FPV of the sub 250 world because I just dream
Right?
about being able to do all sorts of dumb stuff in 3D.
That's funny. Yeah, I'll
Like to me that's like ultimate freedom.
I usually see that guy at least a couple of times a year. I'll tell him next time.
Say don't be bad to your to our hombre or Latino motorcycle brother.
Yeah, yeah, hook him up.
Oh
All right,
man.
man. Let's see. Let's do like final questions.
Okay.
I gotta roll in a minute. Anything else?
I think I asked you more questions, so I'm good.
Oh, all right. Uh, so for the snake videos, this is a snake question. For the snake channel, I'm gonna have to check it out. You put the link in the description. Um, what's the majority of the content? Is it like different breeds? Is it like what kind of enclosures to put them in? Is it like the feeding videos where you're like unleashing the fury? Like what's the most popular stuff on there?
Oh man. Lots of time it's like FPV, where you teach people something, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
been raising I've bred over 20 species of reptile, like animals and stuff. And over the time, when you learn things, it's fun to share it. And one of the things that I find the most fascinating with anything is figuring out things. Like, what is the reason? Why is the reason? How can I like do things differently? And one of the things that is said by like lots of people is you can't keep them together. Like, you don't keep baby snakes together. You separate them. So they take all these baby snakes and they separate them, and lots of the time they raise them in bins that have no light. So because the bins have no light, they basically say it's so that the animal isn't as stressed. But personally, I believe that when you raise snakes in bins that allow them to have sunlight, if they crap, they'll try to get away from it. And if they don't have sunlight and they're in an enclosed bin where they can't see anything and they crap, they don't try and get out. And when they do try to get out, they'll rub their face and hurt themselves and stuff. And so then people put them in these bins because they're easier to take care of them like that. And when you have them all together, and if you don't feed them properly, then you could have some problems and stuff like that. But to me, I raised lots of them together, but I'd clean them a lot more. And then what ends up happening is because the snakes that are raised by themselves inside these bins with no light, the moment you open up their home, they think they're going to be fed. Like, that's the only thing in their life, like some food, and then they eat, and they're like they're good. But then, because they've been deprived of light, so every time you open up that bin, they're kind of scared and they'll eat, so they'll be good eaters. But then you take an animal like that and now expose them to being outside and give them to people, you're automatically going to have more problems with these types of snakes, where they're more scared and they're more reactive. But then taking the snakes and raising them together, which you would think is like a big no no, you're not supposed to do that, they'll eat each other and whatever. If you separate them when you feed them, let them digest for a few days, and then put them back together, what ends up happening is you don't have any of those problems. And because they're used to all the movement and being around each other, they become desensitized to that. So now when you hold them, they're not terrified, they're not scared because they're used to being around each other and everything. They'll still eat properly and they'll they'll do great. And it's just something that once again, it's not what you're doing, but it's like how you're doing it. So you take two snakes, you put them together, and you feed them at the same time in the same place, then yeah, you'll have problems if you don't do things a certain way. So it's just, I really enjoy kind of showing people and helping them understand a lot more about
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
reptiles because they're so misunderstood. Like, they're so much nicer than most people think they are. Like, they're relaxing and calm. They're not like nasty or vicious like the movies and stuff can make them out to be, and like that whole fear thing. So I just love kind of teaching people about them, but then also sometimes dumb stuff like feeding a snake from my mouth or feeding a snake with a drone or like acts of like silliness or whatever, but never risking the animals or anything like that. Just kind of, it's always same thing with FPV, to either make you laugh or teach you something. Like, I want to teach you something or I want to entertain you. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's the best way to be, like, and if it works for you, then you're just sharing that experience. It might work for somebody else.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
So it was a pleasure to meet you and get to talk to you and learn more and stuff. Uh, I always enjoy your videos, and now we're friends.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, and we'll catch up again soon. And like, keep up all the good work flying
And
and
I'm
with
going
the
to be
snakes
asking you
and
tuning questions now.
your tuning questions. I'm
Hey,
gonna
John,
my my aunt
oscillations.
My answer for tuning is just tune your thumbs. That's the only tuning that you got to do.
Just like, just screw off and keep flying.
Just more stick time. That's the answer always. Cool.
Okay,
All right, man. We'll
have a good
catch you
one.
later. You too. Later, man.